Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new series, and this is going to be F1 2022 My Team Career Mode. This year you get to choose an entry point, so you could either go as a newcomer, which is basically how it was, a midfield challenger, which, you know, starts you in the midfield, gives you a little bit of money, and then championship contender. Obviously you're right there at the top, which personally I don't think is very fun, but I think a midfield challenger could be good. And in career settings, we are going to make it a little bit harder for ourselves. So we're going to put the player faults on high, which means that basically our engine can blow up and then we are out of the race. So that's going to be interesting. We're going to make our resource rate reduced, AIs increased, and the same for the cash there. So that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for us to, you know, go further in the field towards the top. Rules and flags wise, we are going to keep corner cutting on regular. We're going to have the safety car on increased. We're going to choose to use my team icons because I'll probably end up using one of them as my teammate, because there's no point being a midfield car and then chucking an F2 driver in your team. It's a bit, doesn't make any sense. And now we get to create our team. So we're going to create myself first, and I'm going to use the same picture as I always do, and then British, because clearly that is what I am. And then for team name, obviously it's got to be SK Shadow Racing. It wouldn't be anything else.
Nice.
And now, as he says, we get to choose a sponsor. So we've got quite a few to choose from, depending on what we choose. They've got different goal things, like Xenon, for example, earn 15 points in the championship or complete a full season, and then we'll get different amounts of weekly income, goal bonus, and a signing bonus. So I want to go for one that I think we can definitely achieve, which is 15 Constructors Championship points in a season. We're going to be starting midfield, we should be getting points, so that'll give us a good signing bonus and a decent amount of weekly income as well. Now, power unit, I mean, we've got Ferrari, which is right at the top there, 95 performance, 97 durability, but it does obviously cost the most. So for me, I think I was choosing either between Mercedes or Red Bull. I mean, I'm a Red Bull fan, so I would have gone for that, but it's not a huge amount more money to go for the Mercedes, and obviously the durability is quite a bit higher. And now we get to choose a teammate. So obviously we've got all the icons unlocked now, so we've got the likes of Felipe Massa, Jenson Button, but obviously we've got the F2 drivers as well. But we've got a decent amount of budget. I know we could use that budget to increase our facilities, but honestly, the biggest difference that I found, at least in 2020, my team career mode, was your teammate, because you go for an F2 driver and they don't get any points, and then you don't get any money for the constructors, and it's no good. So we are going to go for Jenson Button, because he only costs 5 million and he's got pretty decent stats, and he's British, so we can have a fully British team there. As you can see, livery wise, we don't have a huge amount of choice, because at the time that I was recording this, I was using the Origin trial, so you don't get any Bitcoin, you can't buy anything, so you only have the standard ones. But as you can see, we chose our livery and suits, and that is what we've come up with. A nice green, light blue and black colour scheme, exactly how it was in F1 2020. And of course, we've got to choose the S for SK Shadow. Why wouldn't we? And colour-wise, again, it's got to be the green and the light blue. This year, they let you actually copy the colours. I think they probably did that on F1 2021 as well, but it does make life so much easier than in F1 2020, where you had to write down all the hue values and stuff like that.
Hello folks, and welcome to this, a very special edition of Paddock Pass. We're here at the headquarters of Formula One's newest team for an exclusive first look at what they will be bringing to the sport. It's always an exciting moment to welcome a new team onto the grid. However, what makes this occasion a little more special is how strikingly different the cars are this year. Yep, the long-awaited new regulations are finally here, and with them, the start of the next era of Formula One. The 2022 season ushers in a change of direction to the regulations aimed at promoting closer racing, with new aero additions in the form of swooping front and rear wings, along with the new eye-catching 18-inch low-profile tyres that will push tyre technology to the limit. So then, the question remains as to whether this team can grasp the opportunity before them with both hands and lead the charge against the rest of the paddock. We'll find out soon enough, as the new season is just about to begin. But first, let's see the unveiling of the team's car and meet the owner of the brand new Formula One team. Well, first of all, thanks so much for inviting us here today. It's been wonderful to see behind the scenes. As you might expect, I've got about 1 million questions, so let's jump straight in. It's been a long time since we last saw a team owner take their own car onto the track, and the sport's changed enormously in the intervening years. How are you going to handle the responsibilities of both managing...
So these questions basically are the same as they were in 2020. He asks you random questions and then you can choose different ones like, oh, the chassis balance is incredible, and then it just means that when you actually start, that's going to be where most of the upgrades are going. So we go through that, we try and do it reasonably balanced, but I do try and make the chassis maybe slightly better, because obviously that's normally the thing that is pretty bad on the My Team cars to begin with. So we do that, and now we are in to the hub, basically. Once again, it's really not much different to 2021 if you played that in terms of the layout. So you've got the activities that we've got to choose. We go for power and durability focus, or we don't. What do we go for? Driver training camp, maybe? Yeah, there we go. We go for driver training camp. That's just going to make the driver a little bit better. And then a pre-season merchandise sale, which should give us a little bit of money. As you can see, we do start with spec 1 on everything apart from the chassis, whereas spec 2, so that's what those questions work towards. We've got a few upgrades there, and you can see what it means is we are slightly better than Alpine, slightly worse than Alfa Romeo. So we are definitely there, right there in the midfield, exactly as it says when we start. So we should hopefully be fighting for points to begin with. As we are level 6 acclaim, we get to choose a secondary sponsor. So they've, again, the same as the primary one, they've got different weekly goals, they give you weekly income, goal bonus, that sort of thing. We're going to go with Loop, because it says we have to complete a total of 10 laps during practice as a team, which should be easy enough.
I'm your head of R&D. My name's Charlie. Please make yourself at home.
There we go, Charlie giving us a bit of an introduction. Again, looks pretty similar to F1 2021. It's really, they haven't done much in terms of updating the HUD. But by the looks of things, it's going to be dry throughout the entire race, which should be fantastic, because before going into my team, I actually didn't do a single time trial or a single race or anything. So when I go into practice here, it's going to be me trying the car for the first time. As you can see, the other teams have actually brought upgrades, so we are slightly slower than Alpine now, pretty much on par with Haas and AlphaTauri, so we'll have to see how that goes, but we'll head straight into practice. So we are in to practice 1, and as you can see, this is the first time I've even driven the F1 22 cars, and you see I'm already sliding all over the place, because one thing, if you play this game, you'll notice these cars, especially the My Team ones, not so bad in like the Ferrari and stuff, but slow speed corners, really, really difficult to control the traction there. As you see, as we go across this as well, we get a snap of oversteer and smack into the barrier, remove our front wing, which is not great. But yeah, I mean, through the high speed corners, there is insane levels of grip in these cars, which is obviously due to the ground effect thing, but again, we managed to have a spin. Like, going through these sort of slower speed corners, really, really difficult to handle. Obviously, over time, I'm going to get the hang of it. It's not going to be so bad. I mean, I've still managed to, so far, put myself into P6. But, yeah, as you can see, race strategy, it's saying that our tyre wear is actually 0.73 times how much it should be. So, seems like our car is pretty good on tyres. Expected fuel burn, 1.8. Average fuel burn, 1.87. So, good on tyres, but we are burning a bit more fuel than we'd like to be. So, maybe that could be a thing that we could focus on upgrade-wise. At the end of practice 1, these are the results. We've managed to get ourselves into 5th place, which is fantastic. Our teammate's down in 22nd, but he only went on hards, so we can't really compare there. But it is at qualifying time. Let's see how well we can do. Can we get the car into Q3 on our first ever qualifying? So here we start our first ever flying lap in a qualifying session, going into turn 1, braking just before the 100-meter boards, and then traction coming out of this corner is vital, and it's really, really, really difficult. And these new F1 cars, going down the straight there, DRS wide open, braking just after the 100-meter boards. Again, traction coming out of here. These slow speed corners are really difficult to get the hang of. You can actually attack the curbs a bit more now this year than you could in F1 2021. As everyone knew, the curbs just flew you around, but there you go, traction not great. We eventually do manage to make a lap, and it puts us into 4th place for now, but obviously not everyone's done a lap. So we've done a 1:30.156. I have no idea if that's representative or not, but seems to be, because our teammate managed a 1:31.2. But we're not going to take anything for granted. We're going to go out for a second flying lap, because I do know in this game, especially in Q1, the track grip actually ramps up quite substantially by the end of Q1. So the laps you manage to pull off at the end of Q1 tend to be quite a bit faster than at the start. As you can see, going around these corners, we are already 3 tenths up on our previous time. We are down in 10th at the moment with the current time. Button manages a 1:29.7, so that's kind of what we're targeting here as we go around the final corner. We're almost 5 tenths up on our previous time. What time can we manage to set on the board? Across the line with a 1:29.661, and our teammate a 29.707, so actually really, really close with our teammate. But that does mean we are into Q2, which is, you know, everything we could hope for, really. We're faster than the AlphaTauris, even faster than George Russell, which is brilliant. And then we skip to the end of Q2 because we don't really need to see that, and we manage a 1:29.66. Our teammate only a 1:30.2. He didn't actually manage to match the time he did in Q1, and if he did, he'd have been through to Q3, but he's not, which is not very good for us, but it is what it is. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton at the top. What's gone on here? I mean, you've got Leclerc and Sainz in 7th and 8th, almost a second off of the pace. So I think the glitch must have happened there. But we did use 2 sets of softs in Q1 and 2 in Q2, which means we've actually only got 1 set of brand new softs to do our final lap in Q3 as we go to do it here. Anyway, the timing charts say that Alonso in 8th did a 1:29.4, so we're going to have to find quite a bit of pace compared to what we did in Q1 and 2 to be able to move ourselves up the leaderboard there. Ideally, it would be nice. I mean, we should be able to get ahead of Ricciardo. The car performance says that we should be faster than the McLaren, but we are pretty much supposed to be on par or a tad slower than the Alfa Romeo and the Alpine of both Alonso and Bottas. I don't think we're going to be getting anywhere near the Mercedes or the Ferrari or the Red Bull. They're just that bit too far ahead of us. But so far, timing-wise, we've not been too bad on this lap. Traction, it seems like we've managed to actually figure out how to drive these new F1 cars with the lack of low-speed downforce there. As we go around this corner, let's see what our Sector 2 times are compared to Russell. He's done a 1:06.7. What do we put on the chart? So 1:07 point something. It doesn't really show you anymore. Oh, 1:07.1 up in the top right corner. Whether that's going to be good enough, I don't know. I mean, that's 4 tenths off of Russell, so we'll have to see where that puts us as we go down the main straight. DRS open, and we cross the line. Looked like a 1:29.7 maybe. Well, 7th. That's pretty good. 7th on the grid for our first ever race. It's fantastic. A 1:29.3 we managed. Well, that is a lot faster than I could have hoped. We really found the pace in the final run there, which was good because, like I said, we actually only had 1 chance. But anyway, Leclerc on pole. Sainz next to him. Verstappen, Perez, only 3 tenths separate the top 4, so that's going to be interesting. And Hamilton and Russell pretty close behind. So let's see what we can do in the race.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. Formula 1 returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36 mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities, and it could be a strategic race, this one, with Sakhir notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some point during the Grand Prix. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Russell, Paul, Bottas, Fernando Alonso, and Daniel Ricciardo, Button, Tsunoda, Lance Stroll, and Magnussen, Albon, Gasly, Guan Yu Zhou, and Nicholas Latifi, Vettel, Norris, Mick Schumacher, and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as once again we get another year of Formula One underway.
So with the Q2 tyre rule being removed, we don't have to start on softs. It looks like the ideal strategy is a medium to hard. It seems to think that we could do a soft to medium with our tyre wear, but I really don't trust that. Especially not in the first race and where we're starting. I don't want to try anything too out of the ordinary. Anyway, we start the race here, or at least we start the formation lap, and we very quickly realise that the high RPM starts of F1 2021 are no longer, as we almost stack it in the formation lap and almost hit Russell actually, which would not be ideal, but it does look like low RPMs is the way to go. Anyway, the reason I'm doing a formation lap, like I said earlier, is the fact that you can actually now park the car on the grid yourself, which is brilliant, as you can see here. We light up the rear tyres a bit, get some temperature in it, and do we hit purple? We do. Perfect.
Okay, incredible parking there. Nice one. That's going to give you the edge if you can get good launch as the race starts.
As we're told that we have done some incredible parking, so we're just waiting for the rest of the grid to reform, and then we should get the lights on any time now. Here we go. Holding the clutch, getting the RPMs, probably around 8,000 now. And it's lights out and away we go. We managed to control the wheel spin pretty amazingly. We get a fantastic start right past Russell there and Hamilton. Side by side with Perez in 5th place. We break a little bit early, but Perez locks up. And we do bash wheels of him a little bit. Leclerc has fallen into 3rd place as Sainz and Verstappen are side by side. And Hamilton manages to barge his way past us there. But there is a bit of a train going on up ahead with Verstappen managing to elbow his way from 3rd place all the way into 1st. As we sit in 5th and our teammate actually sits in 7th. So he's done amazingly at the start as well. As we go down the back straight and Russell is all over the back of our car. As he pulls out onto the outside, we take the inside line. We're going side by side. But we do manage to stay ahead for the time being, but we get a snap of oversteer there. That is not going to help us. As you see, Russell is still all over the back of our car as we take the inside line defensively again, as our teammate is fighting Perez in the background there. So I didn't expect us to be fighting the Mercedes and the Red Bulls at the beginning of the race, but while that's happening, Carlos Sainz is diving down the inside of Max Verstappen. They actually make contact there, but Carlos Sainz has taken the lead of this race as Max Verstappen goes into the pits. So he goes from 1st place into the pits, and that is probably going to be his race over. Lap 2, we are going down the main straight, and Perez tries to go down the middle of us and creates an SK Shadow Team Racing sandwich with a Red Bull in the middle of it. As you can see, Russell has managed to get past us, and Perez, for now, has managed to get past Button, but Button is having none of that. He is going to try and get the place back there, actually going down the outside into that corner, which you don't normally do, but it's managed to allow him to stay ahead somehow. So Button is ahead of Perez, so that means we are still 5th, because obviously Max Verstappen ended up going into the pits. So 5th and 6th for the SK Shadow Team Racing so far on lap 2. Which is pretty amazing given where we started, 7th, and what I think Button was 11th. So Button has done a fantastic job there. But you can see Russell is pulling ahead. I don't think we're going to be fighting with him anymore, unfortunately. And I imagine at some point Perez is going to find the pace and get past Button. I'm sure Button will make it as difficult as possible, but Perez is going to get past him, and then we're going to have to deal with him. As lap 3, you've got the Alpine of Ocon, I think, fighting Stroll side by side going in L and trying to get past AlphaTauri at the same time. That would have been a pretty fantastic move, but he's easily made the move on the Aston Martin there, and he is so close to that AlphaTauri there. DRS on both of them, but it looks like the Alpine just has the slightly better straight line speed, going side by side, muscling their way through, still side by side. Is he going to manage it? He goes for the dive bomb there, but not quite enough pace, unfortunately, for the Alpine to get past that AlphaTauri. But look how close they are as Sergio Perez goes for the inside line on our teammate again. But our teammate is not giving up. I mean, you'll see this year the AI are so much more aggressive, and they'll stay side by side with you and not give up as easily as they did. As Jenson Button once again tries to take the position back, as Bottas is thinking he might be able to pick up a couple of places here if they end up crashing into each other. But Charles Leclerc is going for the race lead. Deny his teammate Carlos Sainz of his first ever Formula 1 race win. As they go side by side into turn 1, they actually make a little bit of contact, but Sainz does have the outside line there, and that seems to be just enough to be able to keep him ahead, and he's managed to pick up the DRS, actually, as Perez is right on our tail, and he goes for the inside line there, and oh, I thought he was going to have that, but we actually stick it around the outside. Going side by side, are we going to be able to keep the position? No, we dive down inside, and we just about do, and we push him a little bit wide there. That was a bit naughty, but we are going towards the back straight here, as we have a massive snap of oversteer. And that allows Perez to just go straight up or inside, and we're going to be clever. We're going to brake a bit early to get the DRS, but it doesn't even matter because Perez makes a mistake and just ends up sending it around the outside and binning it. So as you can see from his view, he just gets on the curb and the car bottoms out and takes it with him, and that's it. He's dropping all the way back. So a terrible race so far for the Red Bulls, as Leclerc once again on lap 6 tries to get the race lead from Carlos Sainz. They have been having a pretty big battle up ahead. And somehow the Mercedes, you can see at the back, pretty much right in it. Hamilton even thinking he might be able to get a position there, as the two Ferraris are still side by side. I don't know which one of them has managed to get the DRS, as Sainz tries to go down the inside to regain his lead there. But is Leclerc going to give the position? No, Leclerc has managed to get ahead of Sainz and into the race lead there. We jump back on board of us, showing that we are still 5th. With Bottas very, very close behind us. He's managed to get past our teammate, unfortunately. But going into DRS zone, I think Bottas is probably going to make easy work of us, because he has the Ferrari power unit. That car is nowhere near as draggy as our car. You'll see that in a straight line, our car is just slow. I mean, that's a mix of drag, engine power, and also just traction coming out of the slow corners, because obviously the straights are all out of slow corners. And on lap 7 on the main pit straight, you can see just how much speed he has and makes the move easily. He is up into 5th place, Mr. Bottas, pretty much showing the performance of real life. In real life, Bottas is doing very, very well in that Alfa Romeo, and that puts us down into 6th with our teammate very, very close behind us. So we might be having some pretty good battles with our teammate on our first race, which you don't really get when you choose an F2 teammate, because they end up driving really, really slowly. And back onto the main straight there, starting lap 9, you can see we've managed to stay within the DRS of Bottas, but Button is really closing up now. He's a lot closer than I would like, and I think it's not going to be very long until he is trying to move on us. And to be honest, if he does, I'm probably not going to fight it too hard, as we see Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon side by side, trying to see who can fight it out for 11th place, which could prove pretty crucial at the end of this race. If any of the guys ahead end up making a mistake, that could be the final points position. And for teams like McLaren, at the moment, performance-wise, each point is very, very important for them. But on the back straight, you can see Jenson Button is very, very, very close to us now, and he goes into the inside. We don't really fight it. We don't make it difficult for him, because I would rather just be able to secure a good points position for our first race, rather than, you know, proper battling it out. Maybe in the future, if we're fighting for actual titles with him, we would be a bit more aggressive. But for our first race, we're really not going to bother, and we need to be close to him, because Fernando Alonso is trying to go around our outside into the final corner. which is always a bit of a tricky one, but we do manage to squeeze him. And we actually squeeze him into Tsunoda. So he's going to have a terrible exit, and Tsunoda's probably going to manage to get past him, about 6 tenths behind. We get the DRS on our teammate. We have about 40% overtake, but, I mean, there's no point using it because there's no threat. Or is there? Because Tsunoda sends it down the inside from behind Alonso somehow. That was definitely unexpected, but he's still managed to stay ahead of Alonso. But is Alonso going to go for a dive bomb back on Tsunoda, try and get that 8th position back? Looks like he does. And things are back to how they were. Alonso in 8th, Tsunoda in 9th, or not. They're fighting. Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap. Probably ended up pitting for softs when he went in, so that's how he's done that. But we move on to lap 12, and you can see that we've made a pretty good gap between Tsunoda and Alonso with all their fighting, about over 2.5 seconds there. And we are a lot closer to the rear wing of Button than we have been for a while. But I think that he's probably ended up using a slightly lower downforce setup than us, because even in the straights, overtake plus DRS, as you'll see here, he's still managing to pull away, which I don't know. I mean, he's in the same car as us, so he must be using a lower downforce setup. But we do go into the pits in the next lap, and I have set the downforce level to 14, which was down from like 22 or 23 or something. So I've taken 10, almost 10 off of the front wing, which I'm hoping should give us a little bit more straight line speed. But, I mean, in hindsight, probably doesn't make much difference because most of the drag is generated from the rear wings on these cars. But we dive into the pits, and you'll see the new pit feature where you have to press the A button at the right time, and then that will determine how fast your pit stop is going to be. We manage purple, optimal. We get a 2.4 second pit stop, so that's brilliant. As our engineer tells us, it's a fantastic stop. And you see the overcut has actually worked pretty well on Bottas. We've managed 2.4 seconds, but these hard tyres, they come out of the pits really cold, and it is actually really difficult to warm them up. As you see, we are understeering all over the place, which is going to be a combination of cold tyres plus the fact that we've taken a huge amount of front wing off. So we've actually got a really unbalanced car now. So like I say, in hindsight, I really shouldn't have done that. And then when I was watching the replay back of this race, I did actually notice that I've got a little bit of wing damage, so that's probably not helping. But Bottas managed to make up those 2.5 seconds very, very quickly, and tried to get past us there onto the main straight, but didn't quite work. But lap 16, he's straight past us. We've got no defence for that. Fernando Alonso's pretty close to us as well. I mean, you could see that in these slower corners, we are faster, but then when it comes to getting the traction out of these corners and then onto the DRS zones, we just don't have the traction. We've got Alonso. Is he going to go for a dive bomb down our inside? He does. We give him the space though, and we manage to stay ahead for the time being, but it's probably not going to be long until he's got past us as we move on to the back straight here, and I suspect this is when he gets past us. And we take the inside line for the defence, and then we come a little bit back over to the racing line to take the corner. But we are still side by side of Alonso through here. See, you wouldn't normally be side by side through here in F1 2021. We actually make a little bit of contact there, and he's still sticking it up our inside. But the outside line there seems to be the better line, and we do manage to stay ahead. I'm sure he'll be fighting with Tsunoda as well. But onto this DRS straight, we are probably going to be a sitting duck, unfortunately, because he's, 3-4 tenths behind us. We don't have enough overtake, really. Only 23% to fight this move. We take the inside line, but he's just way too fast for us, as you see. He goes straight past us, and Tsunoda goes for a massive dive bomb. We end up hitting Alonso. Even Magnussen's trying to get in the action there behind us, but we do squeeze him out a bit with a snap of oversteer. But we lose 2 positions in 1 corner, which really isn't ideal. And then we go for a massive dive bomb on Tsunoda. That was very, very brave, but we pulled it off and we regain our position on Tsunoda. Unfortunately, I think Alonso in that Alpine is just going to be too fast for us. The thing is, he doesn't have the fastest engine, but that Alpine is very, very good in terms of not having a lot of drag, as Tsunoda, again, tries to get past us. We go a little bit deep, he goes a bit deeper, but we do manage to stay ahead. And he's actually lost a bit of time on us, probably fighting with Magnussen. But yeah, as you can see, 8th place, Alonso, he's just a bit too fast for us as Leclerc sets the fastest lap from 4th place. I don't know how he's ended up behind the 2 Mercedes, but he has.
I don't think you need to be worried, just some bad data, so keep doing what you're doing. I'll let you know if we notice any genuine problems.
Well, our engineer telling us he's noticed some strange readings on the sensors. We really don't want a DNF on our first race, especially being 8th place. That really wouldn't be good. And then going on to the pit straight here on lap 19, Tsunoda is just too quick. We've run out of ERS. We can't defend that. So we're going to just have to try and stick in his DRS zone, and then maybe try and make a move at the end of this race. Ideally, we want to try and keep Magnussen behind us. We don't want to drop down into 10th. I think we should be okay for points, because I don't think Ocon is going to be making up 5 seconds, but we skip to lap 25. We are closer than we have been for a long time on Tsunoda's rear wing, but it's not really going to be enough. Or is it? Tsunoda goes deep, and we managed to make the switch back there and get ahead of him. That was a move that, honestly, when I pulled it off, I wasn't even trying. I was just trying to get back onto the racing line, and he just went deep. But Magnussen, the closing speed he has on us there, my God, the Ferrari engine, seriously powerful down there, but he outbroke himself a little bit. And we managed to stay ahead, and he's fallen back behind Tsunoda, actually. But we do get a nice serving of DRS for all his troubles, so that's pretty nice. All we've got to do now is try and keep Tsunoda behind us for the next 4 laps. And you see we are starting to struggle on our tyres there. Little snap of oversteer. You see on lap 28, we have actually managed to keep him behind. We're building the gap just over a second now, so he doesn't have the DRS, which is absolutely crucial when we go around this final corner to start our last lap, because I think if he had DRS, he could easily get past us. I mean, look, we've only got 5% ERS left, so if he got as close as he has done before, we would not be defending any sort of move onto the pit straight there. But it seems like we've built enough gap. We're nowhere near Alonso. Like I said, he's made up 6.5 seconds. We were never going to be getting past him. But we go on to the final corner. The fireworks are going off, and we cross the line in P8 for our first 122 My Team race. I don't think we could have asked for much more, to be honest. I know we started in 7th, but the straight line speed that the AI seem to have, especially in Bahrain, is crazy. I don't know if there's going to be a performance patch for that, but yeah, they're just a bit too fast, I think. As you see, Ferrari win the race, unsurprisingly. But it's actually Carlos Sainz that managed to win the race in the end. And this is the new podium sequence that they seem to have, which is quite nice. But yeah, you got Sainz there, Leclerc in 2nd, and Hamilton in 3rd place. So not actually much different to what happened in real life, except it was Leclerc in 1st, and then Sainz and Hamilton. But our teammate, Jensen Button, manages 5th place, so he brings home 10 points for us, and we bring home 4, so that's 14 out of the 15 points that we need to get our goal bonus from our main sponsor. So I think that's not going to be too tricky for us to do. As you see, Max Verstappen down in 20th after his issues, and then Perez in 13th after he made that mistake trying to overtake us. So a really bad situation for Red Bull there. As you see, Max made four pit stops. How do you even do that? But anyway, we move on, and we have our first department event. So we get to choose whether we want to give our teammate a bit more pace or a bit more awareness. He's already pretty aware. He's Jensen Button, so I'll give him a bit of pace. And then we've only got 2 days, actually, until our next race. So I think we decide to do G-Force training, give our teammate a couple of extra racecraft points. But overall, it means that we are 3rd in the constructor standings after the first race. So, like I say, honestly, I don't think we could have asked for more from Bahrain Grand Prix there. But thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fantastic action. Hit the bell so then you get notified of when we go to Jeddah.